Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Terriers Talk, and we're going to be reviewing Borough today. We only had half of us in attendance for the game. Only you made the travel up north to go to the game. How was travel? How was the day? Talk to us.
Yeah, it was good day. Um, it's fun up at Borough. Good people, came across a good few Borough fans. Good to chat to him. And I think it was a day where we expected there to be a very scrappy game of football. Both teams very much up for it, competitive, end to end, and I think that's what we got. 1-1. I've seen people say we deserve to lose. Seen people say take a point. What do you think?
It's it's one of them where I don't want to say the same things that I said last week about like you can look at it in two ways, but you can. It's another one of them games where you can look at it in the side of we should have won that, we should have held on, but then equally there's the side of it where there's positives to take from it again. Borough's always a tough place to go. You know, we've won once at the Riverside in
Yeah,
God knows how many years. So to get a point there at what is a bogey ground for us and just things like that, it's really good for us. It's obviously frustrating that we didn't hold on. And the manner of the Borough goal was a bit frustrating as well, but obviously we'll get more onto that as we go on. But it's one of them where it's a point on the board and it's a block to start building on now. And that's all that it really can be looked at. Being brutally honest, it's one of them where you've got to look at it now and go, right, there's a start. It's now just a
we're
case
on
of
the board. We're on
yeah,
the board,
exactly.
aren't we? Yeah, that's. I think
You've
that's
got
the
to put
main
off the
thing.
ground.
Yeah, no, that's the main thing, and I think for both teams there'll probably be that overriding sense of relief. Even though it is just a point and no one came away with all three, there'll be that sense of relief that right, okay, we didn't lose for starters because that's all we've known this season. Got a point like you said, a hard game to get any result at, hard ground to get any result at rather. But I think the best thing to do is start from the first whistle. And you watched it at home. I watched it in the ground, and it's safe to say Town didn't really start well at all. I think Borough came out and really dominated the ball. Overall, they dominated the ball, 59% possession all game. But Borough came out and Town really couldn't get their stamp on the game. I remember counting or trying to count 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 9, 10 passes every time we got the ball, and we only got to four. Couldn't keep hold of the ball. Tended to go quite direct to Ward, who, to his credit, won a few headers, but I think we could have utilised someone else, a bit better up there. But I think this is the thing where if we're going to win football games this season, we need to start well. I know we didn't concede a goal until the second half, but it wasn't a promising start.
No, I think a lot of people will go away from that first half and have thought we're gonna we're gonna concede a few second half because we just again it's another case where we just didn't look on it, and it's not the first game that it's happened. Plymouth was a really good example of that too, where
Yeah,
we didn't look sharp coming out of it, albeit we got a goal right at the end of the the end of the half, even though they were 1-0 up, and it kind of brought the game level, and it was kind of a bit of optimism going into the second half. We can get something from the game. It was very similar to that in the sense of there were no like actual thing to go off for that second half.
there was
There was
nothing. No.
no chances off the top of my head anyway. There might have been the odd chance, but there was no like oh well the Irish chance, and that's the only one that I can really
That's
think
about
of.
it. Yeah.
Where you look at it with a bit of semblance and go right, we can get something from this game because Borough were on top for the entire first half. Um, and I remember thinking at several points, not only in the first half but in the second half, that just there was so much openness for them to attack and just
Yeah.
behind the midfield and like the gap between the midfield and defence, there was so much space for Borough to attack, and they did, and it was really concerning for quite a big period of the game because they've got good attackers: Morgan Rogers, Sammy Silvera, Latte Lath,
Well,
Izzy
yeah. A word for
Jones.
him. A word for Latte Lath. I think it was his first Riverside appearance, and he
Yeah,
was
his debut.
unbelievably impressive. You know, he was absolutely rapid. He dropped in, he linked play, and I think we'll get onto this later because this is something that really needs to be discussed now. That's what we're missing. But I'll hold that thought.
Yeah.
Go into half time, and you're happy that we're not losing. I
Yeah,
think Lee Nichols, a word for Nichols again was he was sensational, absolutely sensational. I think without Nichols, we would have lost that game 3-4-1 easily, showing again why he is one of the best in the league. And as he was making those saves, I was thinking, because we were speaking last week about his mistake against Leicester and whether that was just one of those days. I think he's proved off the back of this performance the week later that it was just one of those days, because I don't think that quality ever will leave you. But yeah, half time, 0-0. Happy days, really, from a Town perspective. And you're thinking, right, what do we need to inject this second half to even, get a point? Not even to get a win. We just need to come out and really go for it, because I feel like we didn't really get out of first, second gear in the first half at all. It was all Borough. We did what we saw quite often under Carlos and what we have seen under Warnock, where we sit back, we soak all the pressure, and then we go, or we try and go. Unfortunately for Town in the first half, it didn't really come to, any success. But you come out second half, start creating chances, and we get a goal.
Yeah, it's one of the. I think very quickly to touch on the Diarra chance. I think it's one of them where I don't want to say on another day, but it's inches away from hitting the correct side of
Yeah.
the post and going in. It's,
Oh
it's
yeah.
one of them where anything can affect that, and I think like like we say on another day it probably goes in. It's one of them where he's unlucky to see it hit that side of the post because it probably is inches away from hitting the right side of the post and going in. So it's one of them where there was a bit of, I don't want to say a bit of Borough fortune because they wouldn't have deserved to go into that half time at 1-0 down. They wouldn't have because they were on top for the majority of the half. And then like you say, Town come out and score from a corner pretty much from the off, which kind of put a stamp on the game, and that's something that I actually wanted to mention. Sauber's set pieces this season have been exceptional. They've been
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant, and it's not just been Borough, it's not just been Leicester, it's been Plymouth too. I don't know if you took them in the cup, but they were probably just as good. They've been consistently dangerous, and that's something that we missed last year. Even when Sauber were here, his set pieces weren't as good as his first full season. I think that's something that a lot of people picked up on. But then this season they look quality again, and that's something that obviously
Mm.
we've scored um, from this game, which is massively promising. So it's one of them where it's in the corridor of danger. I can't remember the
Yeah,
exact
no.
exact words,
Uncertainty,
but
yeah.
yeah, corridor of uncertainty. And I can't. Is it Dale Fry who puts
Del
it
Fry,
in?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so own goal from Del Fry and 47 minutes in, it's happy days, Huddersfield Town 1-0. However, let me just raise a point. Most of our chances this season are coming from set pieces. And without our set pieces, all right, we've hit the post a few times, but we're not creating many chances from open play. And I know we were very highly reliant on set pieces in the nearly promotion season, but we were scoring from open play then. We tended to score slightly from open play last season, but this season I'm not seeing many out and out chances from open play. How long do you give it before that's a concern? Because you come up against sides who aren't as good in the air and can't defend from corners, and then you come up against sides like Millwall, who their centre half partnership as of a few years ago. I don't know if it's changed. 6'5", 6'6" each. So when does that become a concern? Because what if Sorba has an off day on his set pieces, or what if he's not in the team?
it's a difficult question to answer that one. I think I'm looking at a table here from Lou Arns on Twitter. Towns XG from open play is 3.29, which is the eighth highest in the league, I believe. Yeah, eighth highest in the league. 28 shots, 3.2 XG, one goal, which promising. Town's XG from set play then is 16 set play shots, 1 XG, and no set play goals because it don't count if it's an own goal in that kind of tally. So that says everything that you need to know. The fact that Town's XG from open play is literally two greater, and there's not been a goal. No, and there's been one more goal than it is from a corner.
Yeah,
Says all you need to know. Really, it's a frustrating one. It really is because I think you can kind of say that it's a concern now, and I don't think you'd be wrong to say that. I don't think you'd be right to
yeah,
say that. I think it's a very weird one where it's early doors in the season, transfer window's still
yeah,
open. So if this was, say that statistic was around in November, and we were still massively underperforming in XG from uh like in play possession, then it's going to be concerning because you're underperforming an XG from open play. That's where the majority of goals should come from. The
yeah. I
majority of the
agree.
time, the football is being played is through open play, not through set play. So it's
Yeah,
one of them where then you look at it and go, "We've got this issue." I think everyone knows at Town we do need another striker in. We
I
do,
don't think.
and I don't
Yeah, I
think
don't
it's.
think you can. Don't
I'm
think
not
you can
going to
call
get
yourself a
chased
Town fan
around.
if you don't. If you know we
Yeah.
don't need a striker.
So then the issue is how do we then get a striker? Because we've signed Bergzog, and he looked good from his cameo, but he played mainly off the wing on Saturday,
Yeah,
if I'm correct.
left hand side. Yeah,
You've then got Harrott, Hudlin, Ward. You then got Tyree Simpson to come back after his loan. Whether he's in that picture, we don't know yet. Obviously, it's
yeah,
too early to call. Ward's got another season on his contract after this one. Harrott, I'm not too sure, and Hudlin's just signed a new contract.
yeah.
So you've got three there that you kind of then got a case of, well, what do you do? And then you've also got Jordan Rhodes on the side. Rhodes probably isn't going to play for us again.
No.
The simple fact of it, probably isn't for whatever reason. Whether something's gone on behind the scenes, God knows. There's no point speculating. He's probably not going to play for us again, which is probably a loss, but it also potentially isn't a loss at the same time. It's one of them where again 6.5 a dozen you can see it in two viewpoints, but then getting a striker, we've got time left of the window, so
Yeah.
it's concerning, yeah, but it's also not concerning because there's still time to fix that during the window, and I think that we will be looking at a striker still.
Yeah, I agree. And you basically answered my next question. Well, I think you're going to answer my next question based on what you've just spoken about. Yes or no? I know you like him. Is Danny Ward the right man to start up front for Huddersfield Town?
By himself now, by
No.
himself now. In a partnership, and I might get a bit of stick for this, but in a partnership, I think he'd be good. Um, you look at Carlos's time. Carlos started switching to a two up front system and got much better out of Ward than he did when he was just by himself and didn't really have any support up there. So personally, taking bias aside out of it, I think in a two, Ward would do really well. You look at how he's playing so far this season, and he's trying to knock the ball down. He's trying to play off someone, and there's nobody there to
There's
play
just
off.
nothing there. There's
He's trying
nothing
to play
there,
off
and
Karoma and Sorba. Karoma who inverts slightly and kind of can come into that striker position, but doesn't do it enough for it to be a system where it's not a concern. But you know what I mean. What I'm trying to get at. And then Sorba, he's a touchline winger, so
yeah,
it's he's not the right striker to start up front for us by himself. In a two, probably.
yeah.
And it saves money then. Are you kind of similar in that thinking, or do you think that either way, 2-1, whatever, somebody has to come in and replace him?
I think at this point, unfortunately, he's virtually ineffective by
Right.
himself.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate because we know what he can do, and we know he's a Warnock type of player. But this season, I know it's been 4 games in all competitions. He's shown that there's really nothing there for him in this team so far. And I know fortunes can change. He's probably going to end up being our top scorer on 20 goals now. I've said this, but you're not seeing what we know and we know what we love and we know what he can do, but we're not seeing it. unfortunately. So I think it does beg the question: when do we change? We need to sign another striker. Everyone knows that. We've needed to sign strikers for years. Um, but we're just going to have to see what happens. You know, the window doesn't close for
I think it's 10 days.
another, yeah, give or take 2 weeks, 10 days. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But at this rate, we really need to pull our finger out if we're going to start scoring goals. But yeah, I think enough on that. Um, Although it's very topical because we know we need to score some goals. But let's move on. And I think for 15 minutes at a push after Town's goal, there were spells where we were decent. We were getting corners on top of corners. We were really putting pressure on. We're thinking, right, we can go and nick another goal here. That wasn't to be as we fizzled out after probably 10, 12 minutes. And Borough just really dominated after that. I think, again, without Nichols, it really could have been quite a messy scoreline.
Just to interrupt you there, why do you think we fizzled out? Do you think there's a set reason why kind of we drop off? And it's not the first game where we dropped off. There's been spells where we've had pressure in other games. So is there anything that you'd kind of look at and go, that's the issue,
No,
that's why we're
I'm really not sure because for 5, 10 minutes after we scored, we looked a really, really strong, solid unit. We were getting the ball out wide. We were getting the ball into the box. No, it wasn't being met, but the defenders were meeting it. It was going, we're going for corners. Sorba nearly scored from a free kick straight after. Seni Dieng had to tip it over. So I'm really not sure what's going on in terms of why we can't persistently put pressure on a team after we scored. It should be, your tail should be up. The fans were in great voice. The Riverside was slightly hushed, albeit being a very, loud atmospheric ground. We were on top. So whether that's a thing where we just need to get back on the training pitch and learn how to be clinical, have that clean cutting edge, then it probably is the case. But it's probably harder away from home as well. Yeah, I know if we had the John Smith crowd in our back, we'd probably go in and score two, but it wasn't to be, and Borough really just got on top of the game again.
yeah, it makes sense. And then obviously, like you say, fizzled out, and Borough scored very shortly after through Hayden Hackney, who
Hayden Hackney,
just a great goal. It is. It's a really
finish and
good
a half,
finish,
yeah.
but he shouldn't be getting in that situation.
If I
There's
remember correctly, it's Sorba Thomas and Tom Edwards who just said, "There you go, Hayden, cut inside and fire one to the top corner." You can take nothing away from the finish. However, I think it was. I know Sorba was definitely there. I think it was Edwards as well.
they were the right hand side, and I think there were three of them, but I'm not
Yeah,
sure which three it
and
was.
they've given him a ton of space. They've shown him the inside, which you never do. You never show someone the inside of the football pitch when they're cutting in because you know what's going to happen. I don't think anyone predicted the finish, not least Borough fans. But it's just something you don't do, and that's the kind of stuff we have to do if we're going to get results and get over the line. But I mean, what a finish!
It's a great finish. It's like you said, there's not you can take nothing away from the finish. Nichols can't get any
Oh
complaints
no,
for it. It's one of them where you just have to kind of sit back and applaud and go
yeah, oh completely,
restart again. It's just again defending. We've
yeah.
it's a poor goal to get into that position where you're going to concede from. Um, how he's got into the box relatively unchallenged is frustrating. And it's not the first time that's happened. Leicester, pretty much the same thing. Opportunity for somebody to put a challenge in doesn't.
Yep.
Bally Mumba's goal at Plymouth, opportunities to put a challenge in. Probably a goal against Borough in the cup as well. Off the top of my head, where there's been opportunities to put a challenge in.
Oh no, no, completely, completely. I mean, we were played through on Saturday multiple times, very easily, in fact. And I think if Nichols wasn't so good off his line on multiple occasions, and Latiolaf had a bit more cutting edge, Sammy Silvera had two golden chances to win the game
Yeah,
where Town just sat back. I mean, they played us from Seni Dieng all the way to Sammy Silvera, who was basically on the penalty spot, and he'd skied it in probably what was the last few kicks of the ball. could have lost the game. And you're thinking,
100%.
oh, it's defensive errors again. And I really fear that. I mean, Leicester weren't clinical by any means, and neither were Borough, but they're two successful footballing outfits who later on in the season, if we play like that against them, we'll get punished. Because I mean, the perfect example of it is you remember, I remember Burnley at home on the first home game of the season. They were incredible, but they only beat us 1-0. And then we play them in February and they absolutely batter us 4-0 at their place. It's just how clinical a team is, and we're lucky that Borough couldn't take the chances, or else we'd be going home losing 3-4-1. So I think the boys will know that, Warnock will know that, and it's just something we really need to tighten up on.
I think that's a big thing from the Borough game that stuck out to me as well, was just defensively we looked poor. There was so many times where Borough would get the ball in the midfield and get through our midfield, and then there'd be so much space for them to play into. And I know I've already mentioned it, but like playing in a four, well, it was 4-5. I don't know what you can really class it as, because Hogg dropped in as a third centre half.
Yeah.
So if you call it a five, I don't know. But we just we looked so open and so vulnerable so often, and it's playing in a four, because we did start in a four, so I'm going to say we're playing in a four. Playing in that system, once you get through the midfield, it's then a case of if somebody goes and attacks the ball, then you're then
Three, isn't it?
potentially stuck in a challenge where you might have a 3v3 if they break past that
Yeah.
player. So it's frustrating. It really is, because I think at this point you've got to question why is nobody pushing up higher? Why are we then so vulnerable past that line of midfield? There's so many questions that arise from that, and um, I think again we started in a four. We spoke about we potentially want to start in a five against Borough, playing Norwich next week. So I'm going to quickly touch on it now. We'll touch on it more in the preview that we do. But do you play a four again? Do you look at changing, because we're getting opened up and exposed quite a lot from teams?
I mean, if you look at Norwich's results on Sunday against Millwall, 3-1, and Millwall didn't look like challenging whatsoever until they scored a consolation goal in the last few minutes. I think it all depends very systematically. We know how Wagner will play. He'll want to build up. He'll want to use the wings. He'll want to have that overlapping, Smith Kachunga type link.
Mm.
And they will bomb forward. And when they get forward, they will attack the box and put balls into the box, because that's that's what we were so successful at doing. So I think it all depends on what Warnock thinks. And I think I know we would probably have been more successful if we did have that partnership of Hogg and Kasumu on Saturday, and we didn't. And then there's no need to look at a five back, because you've got those two very robust defensive midfielders who would even risk a foul to break up the play. So I think it all depends on how we work characteristically and our how we apply ourselves to the game, whether we come out and be aggressive and want to break up the play, or we sit back and invite them. In that case, you look at a five back. So I think Warnock will probably keep his cards close to his chest, but you're expecting a relatively unchanged side, and with that comes unchanged formation.
So I think that perfectly really leads us. I mean, we've touched on the Sammy Silvera chance. Balls played and should he scores it any other day really.
Got to score, yeah.
He's got to score. It's one of them where he'll look back on it, he'll be frustrated that he's not. And that was pretty much the last action of the game, unless I'm mistaken.
No, nothing.
So player of the game, and then who did you look at and go, this is a bright spot that we can look forward to in other games?
Nichols, player of the game,
Yeah.
undisputedly. Granite Spark. God, there wasn't much, was there? I was very impressed, as we spoke about before, by Sorba's delivery. Positive that the new man got on, Bergzorg. Very good recovery pace to get to get a yellow card just minutes after coming on. I mean, I know that's not positive, but he's quick. but Diakabi was quick, so I can't really comment. I'd have to say Sorba just because of his deliveries. He still couldn't beat a man, but yeah, he's caught my eye with his deliveries again, and hopefully that's the thing where it's going to be consistent now because we need it.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. Nichols undisputed man of the match. He was exceptional. I think Hogg and Pearson as well deserve credit because they were very good as well. And then I think, like you said, Bergzog looked really good well, he looked good when he came on, provided a bit of something in attack. So I'll be intrigued to see if he potentially plays against Norwich. Um, but yeah, I think that wraps it up perfectly. Unless there's anything we're missing off the top of your head.
No, nothing from me. Just fingers crossed we can speak about a win soon.
Yeah, it'd be nice. We've got a draw on the board, so hopefully we can move on up. 'Cause, I mean, we're not in the relegation zone as well. We're out of the relegation zone, so
There you go. We're safe. Yeah,
look on the bright side of things.
of course. Yeah, of
Um,
course.
but yeah, once again, thank you as always for listening. Please, as always, like, share, subscribe, do all that jazz. It's really appreciated. It helps us out a lot. And we shall speak there. We shall speak to you next time when we preview Norwich City.